off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, when we started, whole team walk through me to party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. You fight with me, going to KO.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
I hope you can hear the triple hey. What is going on? If you've never had a Charlie horse, they expletive hurt. And I've got one right now. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. What a great way to start the show. My name is Ryan Tamori. Probably the day that this city, this state, or majority of the state have been looking forward to since, I didn't look it up, since the 21-point loss to Clemson. UNM men's basketball is back tonight. Just in case you didn't know that, busy show for you today. We'll recap everything. We're going to talk Lobo football and another blown, save your Beavis and Butthead jokes for later. A 10-point blown lead against Wyoming on Saturday. We'll talk. I lost my train of thought there. It's one of those days. It's Monday, 4:30. Ned James, Lobo Radio Network, former UNM quarterback, NFL coach. He will be joining us. We always love talking to Ned James. 5 o'clock, Cody Tucker from, and I want to make sure I got it right because I don't know my own name today, the founder, publisher, and he told me to call him lead asshole of 7220 Sports. I won't call him that on a show. I was very happy to meet him. 7220 Sports up in Wyoming. I almost said Colorado, Wyoming. He was at the game on Saturday. I wanted a Wyoming fan's perspective on the game. You know, we always try to do that here. Join the conversation. Join the conversation on Twitter, on X. Rick Thompson will be joining us in a bit. Jacob Neff will be joining us. I think
Richard.
Eric Malton is going to be joining us. Before I get to the people that make this show possible, I want to bring on one of the usual suspects that always joins me. He's been a Lobo fan since 1970, the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, and he's quarterbackless, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Oh man, that's yeah, it was a basic throw from Prescott, and I shouldn't say basic, and he grimaced, and he ran for the first time all season a couple of plays, and somebody tried to speculate that he's out of shape. He hasn't run at game speed. Of course he's not out of shape. It's ridiculous. But looks like they'll be without, this season for Dallas real quick is a lost one, seems to me anyway. But yes, they are quarterbackless. Good to be with you, Ryan. I'm sorry about your Charlie horse ice, and make sure that you take an ibuprofen. Those things hurt. Like I've got one in my thigh one time, and anybody can tell you that's had it, they can really hurt, paralyze you, man. For a couple of days, then they go away. But yeah, they can be painful for a couple of days.
I usually stand when I start the show to bring a little bit more energy in for myself, and I couldn't do it probably because when I do work, I stand there too. UNM lost. I'll get, Ed, I don't know if Rick's ready for me to bring him on, but I'll get your thoughts first. Oh, here he is. Here's your old boy. Hold on. Mr. Rick Thompson, all the way from the Bay Area and a two-time offensive state lineman for the one, the only San Juan Mendoza.
Richard.
Rick, how you doing?
I'm jacked up, guys. Sad to see the Lady Lobos lose a squeaker this morning, but excited for the basketball game tonight and talk about it with you gentlemen. So keep it going here.
Feel free to join the I don't think I'm going to open up the phone line now, but feel free to join the conversation on Twitter, on YouTube. Chime in, get your thoughts on the football game, the basketball game. I think I'm going to start here just because it's fresh and I'm feeling like I'd be doing my news judgment a service here. Ed, you went for a partial of the women's game today. They played NAU, Northern Arizona, who's actually a pretty good Big Sky team. I think they were picked to win it. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything about women's sports and women's college basketball. I feel like there's probably been a lot of, what we got used to with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. We know UNLV is good, at least at the Mountain West level. What did you see I know you had to leave, but what did you see from the first 3 quarters of UNM women's basketball? And just to throw you a heads up there, they lost at the buzzer 80-78. But Ed, what did you take away from Mike Bradbury's squad today? And they did play what was considered a field trip event and it was to get students in the seat, I kind of thought that was a great idea. There's been basketball played all over the country today. The Field of 68 has their tournament going on. I will shut up, though. What did you take away from what you saw from the Lady Lobos today?
There was, you mentioned a lot of elementary school kids were out there today. So a decent crowd. Grand Canyon won 25 last year, or consensus picks to win the Big Sky.
NAU.
I'm sorry, in Northern Arizona. They like to run. They like to shoot threes. I thought New Mexico, for having a lot of new players, I saw some guys. I wasn't real familiar with the players, but I got more familiar. Joanna Malganianis, really, I thought played well. Hargrove played well. They've got some inside power too with Moreland inside. I thought those three players played pretty well. V&A Cumber hit some threes, so that's always a good sign. But I got to say this about Northern Arizona: they played at a fast pace. They took a lot of threes, and New Mexico was ahead at the end of three. And I listened to JJ Buck with a call for the fourth quarter, and Northern Arizona just kept grinding. And I listened to the interview after the game with Coach Bradbury, and he said, he wasn't too upset. I think with the new players that were in the lineup today, he was pretty pleased with the way they competed. Upset that they lost, but again, that's a 25-win team from last year and a good test for New Mexico. So I think they lost a lot. New Mexico lost 9 players last year that transferred, and there was a lot of noise around the program about Coach Bradbury from some people that had transferred out that weren't happy with the way things were going at the program. But I got to say, at least what I saw today, I thought with the players he's brought in, I think they should be pretty competitive in the Mountain West Conference. So I thought it was a pretty good first day. And I'll tell you one thing: the atmosphere was great. Both teams played very hard, and you really got to get out there on Northern Arizona. They love to shoot those threes. They had wide open looks, about 6 or 7 just rattled out. So a very good first game for New Mexico that I saw, and I think Coach Bradbury should be encouraged by the way they played today.
I want to talk about tonight's game. I want to thank some of our sponsors before I do so, because I didn't do that. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, and Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning for all your HVACs needs. HVACs. Holly Holmes. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. Rick, I'm going to throw it over to you. How excited are you for tonight's game against Nichols?
I don't know how excited I am to see Nichols. I'm more excited to see what this Lobo team really brings out there after losing, 3 all-conference players. Everyone still has sky-high expectations for this team, and I think we all do as well. So I'm interested to see who comes off the bench for the Lobos, who starts, who's going to be confident in shooting the three-pointer after so much has been talked about who's going to shoot and needing guys to shoot more. So I'm just interested to see the chemistry between Donovan Dent and Nelly. We all expect that to have grown, and Nelly to be the main big guy down low. And I really expect him to take a big step forward this year. So I'm really more just looking forward to watching the Lobos. I think it should be an easy win for them, but Nichols does have some proven guys on their squad. They have the youngest coach in the country. So, they're going to be ready to go, and their coach is going to have them fired up. So I'm more just interested to see what kind of crowd is out there and to see what these new players do. What are you guys looking for?
Ed, I'm going to defer to you, and I'll gather my thoughts.
I think Rick, Rick's right about that. It's an exciting first game for New Mexico. And Rick, one of the things you mentioned about who's going to knock down that 3-point shots, Amzil and Ryan and I were sitting next to each other on when we the scrimmage last Monday, and he had a couple of looks that didn't go in. They didn't get a lot of open looks. Washington hit some threes early on in the first half. I think Donovan Dan hit one, but other than that, Amzil had some open looks. UTEP closed out so quick. There wasn't a lot of open looks. They didn't get a lot of ball reversals when they went to the second unit. They didn't reverse the ball a lot. I thought UTEP's defensive, the way they played D took New Mexico totally out of their offense. So I think those are things to look forward to tonight. We didn't see Tim Thomas, the freshman, at all. So I'm kind of anxious to see what they're, Quentin Webb, a few minutes here and there. And, there's still the people want to see more of Quentin Webb. And I think the problem is he just doesn't shoot well enough. His shooting is a question mark. So we'll see if we see a lot of him. I thought Seko gave him some good minutes. I thought Atiki did some good things. I was encouraged by some of the things that he did. So I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more of that tonight, and just excited about this opener. My wife and I are going out, so I'm looking forward to
it. You were watching the game, and everybody else on this show played basketball, but me. I think Jacob may have or may not have played in high school. Of course, I like to gamble on it and lose money. I like to literally take $100 bill and flush it down the toilet. Not today. Thank you, Santa Clara. Ed, while you were watching the game, I was trying to watch the Steelers and the Giants on my laptop last Monday night in a meaningless game for, I guess, Shador Sanders sweepstakes for the Giants. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe Ashton Genty ruin his career just like Saquon. Hey, that backward jump, man.
Wow.
Ooh.
Incredible.
Yeah, the Giants did, as I always mentioned, I point back there. They've done such a disservice to Saquon. What I'm excited for tonight is I think CJ Nolan. He did not shoot the ball well. Jacob and I are big mid-major basketball watcher guys. I'm excited for him. What I did watch and what I did see with my own two eyeballs, not looking at a screen last Monday night, was True Washington coming out and hitting back-to-back jumpers. He talked about it. Patino has talked about it. I thought it was fascinating, and I don't really like to push my own work, but when I hear a quote, if you go to our website, I wrote a preview for tonight's game, was Patino saying that, we probably need him offensively, or as I interpreted it, but he wants him to play well on the defensive side of the ball. I've always been a defensive guy, whether it's pitching, playing goalie, hitting the quarterback, or, Kurt Rambis, who did he get in a fight with in the finals? Anyway, stuff like
McHale.
that. Joe McHale. I always think of Bill Lambier and John Sally, and I think of the bad boys. I'd rather you punch them in the face. So I'm interested to see what kind of defense Washington does play. When Jacob Neff joins us after our interview with Cody Tucker of 72-20 Sports, talking the Wyoming UNM game on Saturday. I'm interested to see what his thoughts are on Nichols, but what these new transfers bring in. I'm rambling. I was trying to focus on my.
I think you make
a
good point though about the defense. New Mexico's losing what I would consider obviously House, their defensive leader, and then their top shot blocker in Toppin, who erased a lot of shots from that weak side when guys would get beat. So who's going to step up and be the defensive leader? I think it's clear Nelly will be the defensive leader inside. He's a great shot blocker and moves his feet well. And let's not forget what a good player he is on the pick and roll, hedging those screens. How many times did he get his hands on balls, deflections? He's really good up top as well. So, it's like you're mentioning Washington, but Donovan Dent also has to take a step up on defense. Not that he was a bad defender by any means, but that's where he's going to need to continue to grow and show his leadership. So the defense is still going to be important. We know they're going to get out and run and be one of the fastest teams, but in order for those fast breaks to happen, you have to get stops. You have to create turnovers, which they've always, they've been good at the last few years. So that's a question mark for me too, Ryan. Who's really going to lead the defense this year?
I just got to say this. I think that what Coach Patino said in the press conference the other day is that he thought True Washington was going to be a candidate for defensive player of the conference, of the year. And when he said that, he really wants him to pick up on the defensive end. And then CJ Nolan came in and said that in practice, True Washington guards them all. He guards Donovan Dent. He shuts them all down. So I thought that was another step that they were talking about as far as Washington's defense. The other thing was the deflections. You were talking about, Coach Patino was talking about deflections the other day. And it reminded me of Coach Weir. When Coach Paul Weir was here, he actually started people based on deflections. I don't know if you remember that, Ryan. He would actually say, so-and-so is going to start because they got the number of deflections. And, you know, Coach Pitino's not saying that, but when Coach Pitino was mentioning the deflections, it reminded me of Coach Weir when he was here. So, but I think True Washington is definitely somebody that Coach Pitino is looking for to be that defensive stopper. And you know, Rick mentioned Washington and Dent working in tandem defensively. If you look at the way UTEP blitzed the ball last Monday, they did a lot of that. Man, they're so quick. They would double and then hedge back, get a steal, score. And before the game, Coach Pitino said UTEP turns people over. They did. They stole the ball a lot. Now, I don't know that Dent and Washington are going to do a lot of that. They have to have help on the backside to be able to do that. And UTEP had that. But I think with Dent and Washington, you're going to see a lot. Yeah, and Rick, you made a good point. They're missing House. You know, he moved on. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, and we saw the way he defended. He took, you know, the belly up defense, full court. So they're going to miss that. And then, you know, you mentioned Toppin and Nelly. Rick, you're absolutely right about that. The way he hedges out, and he's a very good defender on the pick and roll. But we don't know. You know, losing those three or losing Mash, House, and Toppin is huge. You're missing three of your best scorers there. So where's the scoring coming from outside of Donovan Dent? We don't know. I think that's another thing we don't know yet. And those are going to take time to develop. And starting tonight, we'll see how they adjust to when you lose players like that have been in the program. Mash had for him not a good season last year. He's hurt. You know, he had a couple good games. He still was Mash in some games and then not Mash. But he's been in the program. He was an established scorer. So we'll see how New Mexico adjusts to the loss of those three. And Toppin's a huge loss. How well did him and Dent work that pick and roll? They were magic on that, man. So, you know, those three losses are big. And tonight we'll see how New Mexico starts filling the holes there.
And I just wanted to mention the key shooter for Nichols is Robert Brown III. Last year he shot almost 41% for three, made 83s. One game he was also 8 for 8. So they got to get out on Robert Brown III and do something, because that guy is a straight shooter, maybe one of the best in the country.
No, when I was looking at those stats, man, the 8 from 8 needs 40% from the 3-point line. I mean, you got to be. I don't care what it is. You have to be careful with that. That could be dangerous. Of course, you get in a pit and somebody always shoots the ball well. Kurt Roth always says that. Nichols, the Nichols Colonel, I still think it's Nichols State, but the Nichols Colonels are picked third. The coach is 29 years old, which Drew Valentine's brother, or is it Drew Valentine, who's the head coach of Loyola Marymount? I think is 33, but the Nichols, it is Tevin Sadler, and he was born in 1995. He's 29 years old. That's pretty astonishing. Is it who is it at Arizona State? Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham is 34. He was born in the 90s too. Quite astonishing. About 10 minutes until we get to Ned James. I mean, we're going to focus on basketball a little bit later. I still want to talk a little bit of football. Ed, we will talk to Ned. We're talking to Ed right now. Ed, you were at the game with me on Saturday. I don't know, for the whole time, it just felt like a clear win for UNM. The first half was a track meet, and if you took the over, bless you, I would have put the mortgage on it. It was 70 all it was tied 35-35. It was 70 all, or 70 total points at half. And then there was a little bit of defense played in the second half. I feel like it was such a wasted opportunity. What were your takeaways from the game? The 49-45 loss for UNM to Wyoming on Saturday at University Stadium.
Kind of reminded me of the game against Montana State where UNM, kind of melted down in the fourth quarter. It was 45-35. UNM has the ball, and I'm thinking to myself, if they score here, I'm going home. You know, my wife and I had plans, so we started a little earlier. And then it was funny because when that was intercepted, my phone fell out of my hands, and you were laughing when they intercepted and pick six, right? The phone, kind of didn't hit on anybody, thank God. But that play started an eventual just meltdown of New Mexico They weren't able to move the ball after that. Some penalties, when they got the ball back in the fourth quarter, and Wyoming capitalized. And then the strip sack to end the game. 2 minutes left. I was like, that's the ball game. They never got the ball back. Wyoming got a first down and was able to go into victory formation. But 717 total yards. You kept me abreast of the stats in the first half. 717 yards of total offense. New Mexico's got to stop a key one in the third quarter. They got a few stops on a 4th and 1, and I thought that was going to be the catalyst to get over the top to win the game outright, and it looked good. And we had our own little group text, and I think Dampier, an outstanding 207 yards rushing, 173 yards passing. Jacobs or Sanders 206 yards rushing. Some unbelievable numbers there, but it's the pick six was tough. It was that's a key turnover there in the fourth quarter. He's been so good. It's hard to criticize, but he did turn it over at Colorado State as well. And I hate to criticize him because he's been good, but I don't think he's without fault. There's improvements needed on every player, but that one was a tough one. And I think I said this to somebody. He throws a lot of those outs. The cornerback for Wyoming, the nickelback, he made a good play. Jumped the route, and that gave Wyoming the momentum they needed to come back in the game. And, it's 2 lost opportunities back to back, Colorado State and then Wyoming. Colorado State was a winnable game in Fort Collins. And then here at home, you've got them up by 10 and you melt down. And so Coach Mendenhall said it in the paper. It's just not there. The execution when in most critical times, he says that it's on our Pit Press introduction. That's when it comes to light. Execution when times are most critical. And when New Mexico's needed it, it hasn't been there in several games. He called it a rebuild. It's still a rebuild, he said in the paper. Sean Ryder wrote that, and it very much is. It was just very disappointing to me. It really was. I really wanted them to win that game, and they didn't. I'm still going to watch against San Diego State. I'll be in Silver City on Friday, but if I get it, I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to give up. It's going to be a long road for them to get a bowl game. Washington State, San Diego State and Hawaii. Washington State, they got to win first Friday, but Washington State, it's probably very, very, very tough to beat them. So anyway, those were my thoughts. I was really, really disappointed, but I think, there's just a number of things you can look back on and say they had their chances here, they had their chances there, and they just didn't capitalize.
I would just like to make a PSA announcement that the football game is on 8:30 on Friday night on FS1 Mountain Time, or what are we at, Mountain Standard Time now, or Mountain Time? And the UCLA game is on at 9 Mountain Time. So there is you're doubling up on double fisting on UNM action that night. Rick, I wanted your thoughts on the game. I mean, I was really impressed with Eli Sanders. I mean, 17 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dampier rushed for 207 yards. It feels like this complete just effort down the drain. And I think I'm going to start with this because you had mentioned it. Wyoming misses a field goal. Then the very next play, it's like 13 minutes to go. You're up 10. You kill some clock. You're probably going to win the game. The first play is a throw. It's a pick six. Wook Brown, the secondary player for Wyoming, 29-yard house call. You did not like the call. Once you had said that, I thought about that. I was like, I didn't like it either. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to sit up here and act like I'm Kyle Shanahan and I'm an offensive guru, but when you've rushed for over 400 yards in the game and you're up double digits in the fourth quarter, it's just kind of confusing to me as why you're throwing a pass on first down when you've had such success throughout the game running the football and you need to just keep the clock moving. Obviously a bad decision by Dampier to stare that man down, but just the play call is a head scratcher for me. And then there was another one on the final drive where they threw a pass on a 3rd and short that I thought was an interesting choice as well. It's like Ed's saying, the Lobos aren't even in this game without Dampier's electric 85-yard run. I wish I could have seen that in person. That looked like one of the best plays in Lobo history to me. But the fumbles and the interceptions, the balls that end up in the dirt, it's hard to criticize, but those are what have affected them the most the past few weeks. So I'll turn it back over to you guys as I talk to my little football player.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah, I thought it was a bizarre play call. I mean, I got to give my hats off to the offense. I thought they played phenomenal. It almost felt like Devin Dampier for like, and Ned James will break it down for us for like, 50 minutes played phenomenal. And then it all just came crashing down. Ed, we'll take a quick break. We'll give Ned James a call. He'll join us after the break. Rick Thompson, Ryan Tamori, Ed Nunez. This is the Pit Press Live. Obviously a lot going on tonight. College basketball is back. UNM in about 2.5 hours plays the Nichols Colonels to start off their 2024-25 campaign in the defense of their Mountain West Conference Tournament Championship. And a side note, they are favored to win the regular season championship. And Andy Katz today tweeted out or put on in his Instagram that he has them to win the conference regular season championship. So there you go with that. That's got to be exciting. Go ahead, Rick.
What is the Andy Katz tie to Albuquerque? Because
he worked for the Albuquerque Journal, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this, but there were 3 Katzisms on the this sports wall that the Journal had that I used to work next to. And he once wrote that somebody had their second fatal heart attack. You can't have a second fatal heart attack because you're dead. But kudos to him for where he's at. I just think that's funny. I'm not trying to take a big fat dump on anybody's head. I just think that's really funny. But I always tell people that, yeah, your second fatal heart attack. Hey, I've made mistakes writing. When I was at the Daily Lobo, I wrote buzzard beater, not buzzer beater. Not a bird. We'll take a quick break and then we'll talk to the one, the only from Lobo Radio Network, Mr. Ned James. We will be right back. If I can find our video clips. Here we go. Perfect.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live, joined by Ed Nunez, and we are going to talk a little bit more Lobo football with one of my favorite people. I always love to see him. He's always got a story to tell. Ed, you say the same thing. His name is Mr. Ned James. He is former NFL coach, former UNM quarterback back in the late 80s, and he is now on the Lobo Radio Network. You can catch him pre-halftime, postgame with the one, the only JJ Buck. Ned, how you doing today?
Hey, doing wonderful. God, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we always appreciate it. Trust me. I'm going to start here. I thought it was a pretty good, and I overheard you on the post-game show with a our friend JJ Buck, but I thought it was a pretty good effort. And almost nearly flawless game by Devin Dampier, but how killer are those turnovers late in the game?
It's always a killer when you turn the ball over. So it doesn't matter when it happens in the game. It could be on the first two series of the game. You could turn it over. If you turn it over twice, another team turns it over once. It's typically the team who turns it over the least amount wins. And in this case, it proved true. That's probably one of the only statistics that most coaches really rely on when it comes to football games, because you want to be able to possess the ball as long as possible. And in this game, it was unfortunately on the other end, on the other side, the Wyoming Cowboys were able to essentially turn two turnovers into the final score of the game, which was 14-10. Most people think the final score was 49-45, but it was an essential track meet with a football in the first half, being 35-35, and so.
How would you rate Devin Dampier's performance, though? I mean, he is phenomenal despite the 2 turnovers. I don't think I can't, and not a knock on you because you're my guy, but is that one of the most probably stellar performances of quarterback play, maybe that you've witnessed, in your time covering UNM?
Well, absolutely. As far as rushing, for 200 yards and being able to pass the way he's passed, but still, his percentage is still, woefully 53%. I mean, he's got to get to that 60% marker. Is what I say every week to JJ. I mean, if he gets to 60%, he don't turn the ball over, they'll win the game because they run the ball so well. And, a lot of people are kind of missing the boat really with this game. And that's why I tried to split it in the halves. And I know most people don't want to, because they want to beat up on the defense saying, boy, they gave up 49 points. And they did. They gave up 35 in the first half, which is, unconscionable by any metric. And so you don't want to really kind of give them any sort of accolades based on, that kind of a performance. But, they really did sort of shut the team down the second half. I mean, they had the pick six. They really essentially only gave up 7 points in that second half, were it not for the interception in return for a touchdown. And the one other score, which they were, kind of debating whether that was even really a touchdown. It was kind of bobbled it, but they gave him the touchdown anyway. But, it was really kind of an outstanding performance by he and Eli Sanders. To rush for over 200 yards a piece is just it's no easy task yet. And still, the turnovers is what really cost them the game in the end. But you and I talked about this in the pregame show, and one of my favorite NFL coaches, Bill Parcells, used to use a metric described as the hidden yardage. And I know everybody's infatuated with the quarterback and the performances of quarterbacks, whether it's high school, college.
I lost Ned James there. Hold on a second. And everybody's going to have to hear the phone ring. Ned, I'm sorry I lost you there.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that.
I was in the
You were in the middle
of
the New York Giants fan hung up on you talking about Bill Parcells. I'm sorry about that. Continue.
No, I talked about Bill. I mean, you remember we in the pregame, we talked a little bit about the hidden yardage stuff. And it really, really bears true when you go into the details, and they always say the devil is in the detail. You go into kickoff return, and, they had a 15-yard advantage on kickoff return. Penalties, they had a 15-yard advantage in penalties. Interceptions, they had an advantage in interceptions. Net kickoff, where the ball was spotted, they had a net of 5 yards. So it's the small things. We had 11 yards difference in punt return. So it's the details. Those add up in Bill Parcells' hidden yardage analytic diagnostic or analysis of a football game. Those numbers, if you get to 100, add up to 7 points. If you get up to 80, they can come to 3 points. So it was the difference in the game. If you look within the minutia of the game, that's where the game was lost. And so, I mean, it was a fun game to watch. If you're a fan of football, you got offense. You got bombs thrown. You had, big time 75, 85-yard runs. I mean, it was just an exciting game to watch. Unfortunately, we were on the other end of it. So it didn't, Devin Dampier is electric as he is as a player, as dynamic as this offense is. The pick six was critical. And people are, our football text of all us old former Lobo football players, everyone goes to that last, 8-9 minutes of the game when we had the 2 turnovers, which were costly because, in Broncos analysis, we had the game won. And then, here we're up by 10, and the next thing you know, we're chasing it. So it was just an unfortunate loss, a team that, everybody expected us to win. But, this is the one thing that, is different, and we'll get into this, I guess, later in the segment about last year's team is the turnovers.
Ed, I'll throw it your way.
The hidden yardage thing, that's real interesting to me. And you mentioned Bill Parcells, who I love that guy. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm not liking his time. I'm not. He did a good job there, but I remember him most with the Giants, and winning 2 Super Bowls with them, and just the way he would talk to players that said he would put it out there. You're going to go home, son. If that ever happens again, I mean, gosh, the guy was a great coach. So I don't think that's something I've ever heard. So I think every time we talk to you, we learn something new about the way football breaks down. And you would know,
Yeah.
You coach at the professional level, and you and I, gosh, I always learn something from you every time I talk to you. But I got to ask you this. Okay, so you mentioned Dampier and the way they were rushing the ball, and those turnovers, as you mentioned, were critical. From a quarterback standpoint, you played the position. He does some good things. There's no doubt about it. What do you see that he needs improvement on? Is mechanics, footwork, passing, the out patterns, the seam patterns. What does he do that's good, and what do you think that he needs improvement on? I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, the kid, first of all, the guy is fantastic. I mean, he's a phenomenal quarterback. He's a phenomenal passer as well as runner, scrambler. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a guy who was as good, if not better, than he is as a scrambler. He's one of the best I've ever seen at scrambling. One of the things he's going to have to get a little bit better at, and it's what I say about quarterbacks in the NFL. Everybody makes fun of me because I'm not. And I think Lamar Jackson is the greatest college quarterback that ever played, but not in the NFL. And he's a 2-time MVP. And people are always asking me, especially TJ Trout, why don't you like Lamar Jackson? It's not that I don't like Lamar Jackson. It's that you got to complete passes from the pocket on third down. And everybody beat up on Jared Goff 3 years ago when the Rams traded him to Detroit. They basically called him a stick in a washed up QB, and I was telling everybody the guy is pretty good. He's won all these playoff games because in the NFL you got to win games from the pocket on third down. And I don't care how athletic you are, you're going to have to be in the pocket. You're going to have to make some throws in critical situations from the pocket. And Dampier is growing. He's young still, but he's got to get better at that. And that's where that 60% completion percentage comes from. You've got to get better and more efficient in the passing game, or you can't pass the ball that much. You can't be a 53% passer and throw the ball 41 times. You're not going to win very many games, especially if you're turning it over. And he's been responsible for a lot of these turnovers. And so just to give you an indication, last year, this team, they didn't have as many turnovers than they have this year. They've got 18 turnovers already this year on offense. They only had 15 all of last year, and they were 4-8. So that's the kind of out of all the things they've done, they've scored more points, they've got more yards, total offense, all that stuff, passing, rushing. They're doing phenomenal in those areas. But the one thing that jumps out are the turnovers. You can't have that many. You can't average 2 turnovers a game and expect to win the game. It's just not going to happen. And statistically, right now, that's where they struggle at now, as opposed to last year. They only turned people over 8 times on defense. They only got 8, turnovers total for the whole entire season. Well, they already have 10 total this year on defense. So that's where you have to be careful when you want to criticize the defense. And I understand the defense has given up way more points than last year, way more yards than last year, and passing and rushing. So that they need to improve. Yet still they're turning other people over, which should help. But I went through the hidden yardage stuff just to kind of give you an idea of that. There's more to the game than just the quarterback. And I tell JJ and them this all the time. They're finally starting to buy in. You sell tickets on offense, you win games on defense, but special teams is how you win championships. And so you've got to get the devil is in the detail, and you've got to tighten up those special teams along with not turning the ball over, and you'll have some success.
A couple more questions for you, and then I'll turn it back to Ryan. Ned, you've heard Coach Mendenhall say this, that execution has to be at its best when times are most critical. We haven't seen that in the situations that you mentioned, the turnover part especially. That makes a lot of sense there. Why they're 3-6 rather than maybe 5-3 or having a winning record here and there, right? Key plays down the stretch against Montana State, against Wyoming, Colorado State, probably a winnable game. They just, the execution wasn't there. How far away do you think this, Coach Mendenhall mentioned in the paper, it's still a rebuild. We got excited about the 3 wins in a row, but how far away is this team from getting there? Again, they've got 3 games left and they're still bowl eligible until they're not. How far away is this team from getting there?
Well, in one aspect, I have to be politically correct when I say certain things. But one of the things, that is really kind of a misnomer, especially nowadays with NIL and everything. There's no such thing as a rebuild. Every year, is a rebuild. Every year, kids are going to come and go, and you got to figure out how to win games. I mean, it doesn't matter, what your roster looks like. You have to build your roster from the first day you sign your name on the dotted line to say you're going to be the head coach. So I think what Bronco really means is that we're not, they're not hitting the goals that they've expected this year. And as far as rebuilding and thinking about next year is now. It's not the rebuild. These guys have enough talent. They've performed well offensively. I mean, it's just that they haven't held up defensively. And so you have to put all the pieces together. And sure, I'm sure he's trying to say that he's building a culture here, which I think he is. But you have to, the details, the minutia, like we talked about with special teams. You have to have those things down. The penalties, you have to cut back on those. And when you get to those numbers, when you crunch those numbers, it's like Bill Parcells, said in the analytics. They add to points, they add to wins. And when you're good and when you're efficient, both offense and defense, you have those numbers, you have those downs, you don't have as many turnovers. You're much more efficient defensively and controlling the game. You don't give up as many big plays. It's just little things like that they're going to have to turn around. And I don't think it's necessarily because of the rebuild. I think it's just because of the actual execution. And I think they're getting close, but in these games, these tight games, they've come up short these last couple weeks, and so they've got to find a way to get through this. And I think the turnovers are the key. I think they're going to emphasize that. I think they have emphasized that. It was just unfortunate that he turned that ball over late in the game. Otherwise, it would have been an incredible game. It was a fantastic game. And everybody's kind of raving about the 2 guys with the 200 yards, but at the end of the day, you don't get the W. It's not a win.
That's really all that matters. The other question is, it's the elephant in the room. Everybody mentions it every time Dampier makes a great play. And he made a lot of them on Saturday. You hear the buzz wherever you're at, wherever you're sitting, wherever you happen to be around the football program or around football people that know about the program. I'm just going to bluntly ask you, what's it going to take to retain him here? I mean, are you confident that New Mexico, and I know it's down the line. I know there's so many questions about the NIL and things like that, but are you confident they'll be able to keep him for next year? Devin Dampier.
Well, if he keeps Devin Dampier, if he keeps turning that ball over the way he is, he ain't going to get much money on the open market. So he may have to stay here. He may not have a choice, but no, he's a phenomenal player. And, I'm sure he's going to command, whatever, that talent commands at this level for his play. I mean, he's a special player. And I always hope, I'm always optimistic we're able to keep these guys, depending on just, how, many resources we come up with to keep them. And so that's just, whether we want to admit it or not, that's just the name of the game now. So um, I believe you can. I believe it's not out of the realm of possibility to come up with the right number. But at the same time, you're competing with a lot of other schools who have a lot more resources. So we'll see. I'm not sure either way. I was shocked when his name came up early on in the season. He had just only played 2 or 3 games. So, yeah, and still, I mean, he's still, he's dazzled in these games, and so, that's what it's about. If he can kind of maintain that, it's going to be tough to keep him, but I'm hoping we do.
Ned, I have to ask you about the Wyoming quarterback, Caden Anderson. First career start. You're a quarterback guy, so that's why I'm throwing this question your way. 20 of 29, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Throw out the fact that the UNM defense is not good. It's his first start on the road. Were you pretty impressed with this Wyoming quarterback?
I was impressed with his size. It was interesting, how big he was. I talked to some of their, when I was sitting up there with you in the pregame, I was talking to some of the Wyoming guys before you had gotten there, and they were telling me about him, and they're like us too. They're 1-7, but they really think they should be 4-4. They're one of those guys that, hey, and they felt that had they played this kid earlier, they would have won. But this kid, Savotas, showed up with the number 17 and the Josh Allen stuff, and he was big and strong and could run. And so they thought, okay, we're replicating. He thought they kind of got carried away with the whole Josh Allen, good looking replica, looks like him, that kind of stuff. And they should have started this kid way earlier. And so, the South Lake Carroll stuff, I don't get into all that because he's out of that big school in Dallas, Texas, that all the, a couple of NFL guys come out of. A lot of people were saying that, he looked the part, but, we kind of have the get right defense. You come and play against us, and your quarterback just all of a sudden gets right. So we have to. It was one of those games where this kid was spinning it. Then when he dropped that bomb on us deep, then everybody was really kind of, well, how was this kid playing earlier? He could throw like that. But he really looked good. I mean, he only turned the ball over one time. I thought it was a solid performance for a freshman in his first start. But we're the get right defense. So, we've got to tighten it up a little bit earlier. We tightened them up the second half, but that 35 points the first half, I mean, they just ran the ball, and they got their really good. Wale was a really good running back last year. They got him back for this game, so he really ran well. So that really helped the guy kind of get off pretty well. But I mean, boy, he made some big time throws, and he looks like he's going to be something special here coming up.
UNM has a short week. They play Friday night against San Diego State. Ned, did you happen to see any of the San Diego State and Boise State game on Friday night?
Yeah, and I've watched some of the film too. I've watched some of the film on San Diego State and watched their offense and their defense a little bit, just to kind of get an idea of what they're running, offensively, schematically. Their coordinator. I mean, their head coach was the coordinator at Colorado up there with Dion, and he came over, became the head coach of San Diego State. They've got some good players over there, but they're struggling. They're playing a freshman at quarterback. I hope he doesn't get right against us like this kid did. But they're playing a spread offense. They're not very good. I mean, they've got good players, but they're just not playing very well. And they've played in some close games. They're trying to keep the games close. The quarterback there, he's a young guy. He's a young freshman quarterback, and so he's kind of learning his way this season. Defensively, they're not bad, so it'll be a challenge. But this is a game we can get. I mean, it's just like San Diego State is not the San Diego State of past. Yet and still, we've got to find a way to limit the turnovers and limit the scoring. On defense. I mean, our defense has got to, they've got to play a whole game, pretty solid. And, special teams I always think is important. Those are things. And Bronco talks about that all the time. Bronco uses the term field position. He doesn't want to say special teams because it's essentially what it is. it's all of those units, and you see the kickoff returns, and that flips the field, that one big kickoff return that they had. So it's just little things like that, you got to tighten up. And then, I think, if we can put all those things together, I think the Lobos can get a win Friday night. It's going to be tough up in San Diego, down in San Diego, but at the same time, this team is capable of exploding on offense. We just got to put it all together. If you put all three, offense, defense, and special teams, I think they can really do something. I think, Bronco runs a pretty tight ship over there. So I mean, I'm looking these last 3 games. This is going to be a telltale sign because they won 4 games last year, and we wanted to see a little bit of an improvement this year. And I think the expectation was that they would win more games this year than they did last year. So the whole building thing, you really have to be careful with because you're using guys that were on the team last year, and they're the star players in Wysong and Devin Dampier. So this should be a team that kind of gets better as the season goes on, and I'm expecting them to. I mean, I expect them to compete in these last 3 games, and so we'll see what happens.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead, Ed. No,
I wanted to ask you this. Luke Wysong tried to warm up in pregame, and he was dressed out. And Coach Mendenhall, who plays injuries close to the vest, or is any coach you've ever seen? You really don't know what the status is. No excuses. You got to dance with what brung you, and he wasn't there. But did New Mexico? They missed him as a punt returner. You mentioned how important special teams are, and he's the heart and soul of that wide receiving core. How much did they miss him on Saturday?
Well, I don't know how much they missed him. He scored 35 points in the first half. I'm sorry. And, it was interesting because I was sitting upstairs, and it was right before Ryan came over and sat down with me up in the press box area up there. And I'm sitting there, and the Wyoming guys come over to, because I talked to them before when I was going to check my mics and everything. The broadcast booths are next to each other. And so I had good conversations about guys that I played against. Galen Thaxton was a player that played at Wyoming when I played. I thought was a great player. And they talked about him selling insurance and Laramie. And so I got to know him pretty good. So when I went to sit down, where Ryan came and sat down with me up where the buffet and stuff are, the Wyoming media guys came over to me, and they said, "Hey, well, what do you want to know?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, you want to know injuries? You want to know who's hurt, who's playing, who's not playing?" So they're giving me everything, and then yet we don't know who's going to play on our side. It's held close to the vest, those injuries. But at the end of the day, Caleb Medford was back, and and I understand it. I think it's great that Bronco does kind of keep it close to the vest. You want to have every advantage possible when you're going into a game. And that's what he does. I mean, that's his way of collecting wins. You just every little advantage you get, you want to take. So, and that's what he does. I mean, he keeps them, everything close to the best. But yeah, I just thought, not having Luke Wysong, I don't know necessarily if it was the critical factor in this game, especially with that many points being scored. They scored 45 points. So I mean, that's not. I don't know if Luke's been in a game where they scored that many points. So I think they were okay. I think, there was some missed. That's why, that 60% completion percentage is so critical for me. JJ always, he looks at it and just laughs at me because when we don't get to it, we typically don't win. And he's, especially with the turnover stuff. And so he's like, "Man, how do you know, Ned, that it's just that close?" I said, "I'm not even really concerned about offense. I look more at the special teams and the details and the hidden yardage stuff." And but he's like, "Yeah, I mean, Devin Dampier is phenomenal as he looked, as phenomenal as that rushing attack looked. You're talking 400 and something yards of rushing, and you lose a game. I mean, you typically don't see that with teams that run the ball that well, that they wind up losing a game because they're possessing the ball, that much. But we ripped off such long runs that they were able to get the ball back and had enough time to march themselves down the field and score. So it was a kind of a back and forth game. But I don't think losing Luke Wysong or the injury issue played a real factor in this game.
I was about to ask you about Luke Wysong. Thank you, Ed. He is.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Oh no, he's got one more question. Go ahead.
No, I don't.
Oh, my bad. No, that's all good. ping-ponging off each other right now. You can catch him on the Lobo Radio Network. You can catch him on 94 Rock. Or no, not 94 Rock. He's on with TJ Trout on 96.3 occasionally on the afternoon. Shows how much I listen to the radio, even though I was on it like 2 years ago. One of my favorite people to talk to. He's a plethora of knowledge, and he's got great, great stories. Catch him on the Lobo Radio Network with the one, the only JJ Buck. Pre-game, post-game, halftime, out of order, Mr. Ned James, and a former quarterback for the University of New Mexico. Ned, you know I love it, and I love all the Bill Parcells love. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, the hidden yardage, man. You guys got to read up on that stuff. You got to have your football stuff together next time.
Well, he's giving us homework. His name is Ned James. Ned, thanks for joining us. We'll bug you next Monday.
All right. Talk later.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Ned James. Man, he's the best to talk to all the time, isn't he, Ed?
You know what's up? The hidden yardage thing. He always teaches me something every time I talk to him about football, and that was something right there. And I know what a big you really weren't born when Parcells was around, were you? I don't think you were you?
I was in my mother's womb for Super Bowl 21, and then I was like 4 or 5 when they wide right, Scott Norwood.
You know, the thing I liked about him, he would tell Phil Simms, shut up, Simms.
Yeah.
I loved him. He's an old school guy. The players, some of them, Harry Carson wasn't the biggest fan of his. He wasn't. But some of the other players, maybe it wasn't Harry Carson. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it might have been George Martin. Some of the players weren't enamored with him. That guy was a winner, man. That guy was a winner. He knew how to win. He knew how to coach football. A lot of respect for him. So when Ned brings his name up as someone to refer to with the hidden yardage thing, now Ned's going to have me looking anytime I look at the sheet, like, where's the hidden yardage? So, he's always the best to have on. He's also a very good friend of mine, man. The guy, I love Ned. He's a good dude. So, yeah, it's always, anytime you talk to him, it may not be about football. It might be just about this, and this. Yeah. And he's got opinions that vary, that they're very wide, man. And some people may not enjoy what he says. His thing is, hey, that's the way it is. Too bad. But I'm glad we had him on this afternoon and every Monday afternoon. He's great.
There's an NFL Films clip where they cut to Bill Parcells, and he's like, and I'm trying to watch my cursing on here, but they cut to Bill Parcells, and he's talking to the ref, or he's talking to somebody. I don't know if he's talking to a ref or Bill Belichick even. And he's like, I got fucking Phil over here doing that. And he's like berating Phil Simms. It's the best. I cannot believe I'm saying this, because Phil Simms, 22 of 25 in Super Bowl 21, the highest completions percentage in the Super Bowl. He was nearly perfect that day. But for Jeff Hostetler to get hurt and to come in 1990, January 91, and lead them and beat the Bills. I know I saw the 2 Eli runs, but I mean, my love of history, it's all about Jeff Hostetler, but I got to give Phil Simms his credit. But him and Parcells going back and forth. And I know there are probably a lot of people listening that are Cowboy fans and Bronco fans, just because of our niche and where we're at. I mean, I love it, but and Parcells is a Jersey guy too, but it's just humorous to me how crazy they were. Ed, I love it, and I appreciate you talking about Bill Parcells. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back talking. I know everybody wants to talk basketball. One more segment, football. Cody Tucker, 72-20 Sports from Wyoming. He was at the game. They were 1-7. They're now 2-7, beating them. I wanted his thoughts and might ask him a little bit about Wyoming basketball. A lot of change going up there. Sundance Wicks apparently is a crazy, crazy man, and I love hearing about him. We'll be right back. This is the Pit Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the show. Ryan Tamori, Ed Nunez, about 2 hours away from tip between, I sound like an airline pilot, the University of New Mexico men's basketball team and the Nichols Colonels. But we're keeping this football train going because, as everybody who listens to this show knows how much I love college football, even when it's a 3-5 team and a 1-7 team. Well, now 2-7. He is the founder, publisher, and I'm going to just give him a hard time because he's a Phillies fan, the a-hole of 7220 Sports. His name is Cody Tucker. Of all places, I ran into you at Frontier on the morning of the game, and I noticed your shirt, and I just happened to walk over and say what's up, and I'm totally glad I did. I'm sorry for the run by Phillies hatred there, but how are you? And thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, we walked into that place and I thought, where in the world are we? It looked like we were right across from campus, but the place looked a little scary from the back entrance. But good food, good place. It was good to meet you too.
No, it is. It is. I ate there like almost every day or every other day when I was at UNM. What'd you order there?
A cheeseburger, of all things, in New Mexico. I did not even have a green chili the entire time I was there. I am ashamed to say.
You're letting me down. But I'll get into more. I'll get into more pertinent things here. Again, you can catch them on 7220 Sports, 7220sports.com. We're asking the same question down here. I grew up watching the Rocky Long days where UNM football punched people in the face. We were just having a conversation about Bill Parcells. I'm a New York Giants fan. Except when they play the Steelers, because then I put money on the Steelers. But you have an article on 7220sports.com right now. What happened? And I'm asking the same question. What in the hell happened to UNM's defense, but what happened to Wyoming's defense in Albuquerque? This first half was a track meet. I mean, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, and it's really got to hurt for guys like Bronco Mendenhall and Jay Sawbell, who are really defensive coordinators at heart. I mean, that's just got to be brutal. And I know Jay, he actually joked today that, you'd have to turn off all the cameras and recorders if you wanted his true take on the defense, because he's already been reprimanded by the Mountain West once this year, and he's not interested in doing that again. But we didn't expect that from Wyoming offensively to do that to New Mexico's defense. That's for sure. It was Caden Anderson's first start. So, and Wyoming's offense has not proven they can do much of anything this year. So we were definitely surprised about that. Although New Mexico, obviously ranked at or near the bottom of the pecking order there in the FBS. But as far as the Cowboys defense, just been really inconsistent this year, and injuries have really, really impacted that, especially on the back end with Isaac White and Wyatt Eckler. Those guys played. They're not at 100% by any means. Eckler's been playing with 2 clubs on his hands, 2 broken thumbs, both happened against BYU. God bless the kid. He's been going out there giving it his all because it's his senior year, and then Isaac White just has a nagging ankle, and that's been a huge issue. But honestly, credit to Devin Dampier, Eli Sanders. Those guys are dynamic players, and the offensive line, New Mexico's big offensive line, really put them on skates and opened big holes. And Jay Sawbell said we were just a step slow. And today even went as far as mentioning, there's some imposters out there who are just kind of wearing the clothes and doing the thing, but they're not all the way bought in. It appeared on when he watched the film. So that's obviously a very troubling statement to hear. Like New Mexico, defense is a prideful thing in Wyoming. Running the ball and playing great defense. And they did not play great defense. However, Rook Brown, nickelback, steps in front of a Dampier pass. I'm sure you guys have been talking about it down there. I can't believe they even threw the ball. Rook Brown picks that off, pick 6, gets the Cowboys right back in it. And, of course, Tice Westland with the strip sack at the end. So they made the plays at the end when they needed to. But if it wasn't for the Cowboys putting up 600 yards of total offense, this could have been ugly.
My buddy Rick isn't on, and I have to, of course, go to one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Tommy Boy. Richard. That was the first thing he said, was they can't believe they threw the ball. And I'm just going to step away from the game on Saturday very quickly. What did you know about the Jay Sawbell criticism after the Utah State game? I don't know the full story. Obviously, I saw the headlines, but kind of break down the story. What happened? I know he was critical about the officiating at the end of the game, and the Mountain West, kind of slapped him on the wrist.
Sure. And what happened against Utah State is something that Wyoming fans were freaking out about on social media during the New Mexico game. And that's, the Cowboys offense, which was actually humming for once, got the ball back with 1:36 and all 3 timeouts right before the half. and Jay kind of let it drain and went to the locker room there. And fans were beside themselves on social media and saying, here we go again. However, the week prior against Utah State, he tried to be aggressive, brought in Evan Svoboda. He throws a pick. 2 plays later, Utah State's in the end zone. They turned it into a 10-point swing and took the lead into the locker room. He was trying to avoid that. I get it. I also get where the Wyoming fans are coming from, because New Mexico wasn't stopping anything, and Wyoming was just scoring at will, and that just doesn't happen. So, there were some calls that were definitely questionable in the Utah State game. The one that sticks out to me, obviously, there was a block in the back by Jalen Sargent down at the goal line that was not a block in the back. That basically took the Cowboys off the 1-yard line. They had to settle for a field goal. TK King, who did not play in New Mexico, is a dynamic receiver and kick returner for this team. I'm talking lightning fast. He's leading the country in kick return yardage per attempt. He got a violent hit to the head that was not called, and just there were things like that. And the final straw was Wyatt Eckler pick six when the ball, or not pick six, I'm sorry, pass interference when the ball actually hit him in the back, and it happened right in front of Sawville. And he said the magic words, and got a little slap on the wrist, but at least his wallet wasn't lighter after that one. But it was just a rough night, man. This has been a real Murphy's Law kind of season for these Wyoming Cowboys. 9-win season last year, bringing back 17 starters. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Didn't lose anything in the portal per se, and it's just they made plays last year and won a lot of one-score games. This year, they're losing those one-score games. So, in New Mexico, when Dampier threw that ball, we were all thinking, man, we were thinking it was lights out after John Hoyland missed that 40-yard field goal, and then Dampier gives Rutten Brown a gift, and Wyoming's back, and they finally found a way to pull one off.
Go ahead, Ed.
Cody, Caden Anderson, the quarterback for Wyoming, I thought played very well, and I thought he made some great plays. Cocky kid too. He got into a couple of pushing matches, and I like that stuff though. Yeah. I do. I mean, he didn't back down. Yeah, I thought he threw a nice rope down the sideline there. What was the consensus after the game from the Wyoming media people and Coach Savell about the way he played? I thought he really showed great pocket presence, threw the ball on a rope several times. Thought he played a great game. What was the consensus there about the way he played?
Yeah, I mean, guys, you can't ask for a much better starting debut than that. He leads them down the field, scores 4 touchdowns on the first 4 possessions. He was really on target all day. We haven't seen a lot of Caden. We saw more than a sample size against Utah State because they were going with the 2-quarterback system that day, and he played really well there. Aside from a couple little mistakes, kind of like in New Mexico. He throws that pick into double coverage. That's really the only thing you can pick on. He played at South Lake Carroll, a powerhouse in the Metroplex, a powerhouse in the state of Texas when it comes to high school football. His first ever start in high school was in Jerry's World against the winningest program in Texas high school football history, and he lit him up for 3 touchdowns. So, this isn't that big of a deal. That game was on ESPNU and the whole nine. I mean, he really keeps things in perspective, but I thought he had a fantastic outing in every way. Evan Svoboda is such a good dude, and he tries really hard, and he's really hard on himself. And it's been hard to see him go through this, being benched and everything. But, he's Caden Anderson's number 1 supporter, and I thought he just, man, he looked the part. That's all you can say. 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, adds another on the ground, completing 70% of his passes. Those are things dreams are made of. And at Wyoming, since a guy named Josh Allen left, we haven't seen 70% completion games. That doesn't happen around here. So it's a nice breath of fresh air. Everybody's really, really excited about Caden. And the other thing, guys, I'm sure you deal with it in New Mexico too. A kid does really well and people go, oh, great, he's going to the portal. Who's going to take him now? Wyoming stuck with Caden Anderson through 2 torn ACLs in high school. And he feels very indebted to the school. And without prompting, outside the Wyoming locker room in Albuquerque, he said, I'm not going anywhere, man, and the future is bright. And all the plays he made that night were 2 guys that are all underclassmen. So they're going to lose 1 offensive lineman, the center on that offensive line. And if the portal's not busy, you guys saw it. I think that was a real nice flash and real nice showing of what this Wyoming offense can be.
I think when Wyoming football is good, it's probably good for the league and maybe college football there. And I'm still in a stealing this out of the Jim Rome book of metaphors, but it's like the U is good for college football. The Raiders and Cowboys are good for the NFL when they're good. I feel like Wyoming football.
Sure.
I've always wanted to go see a game up there. It's on the list. Harrison Wally was coming in as touted, one of the better backs in the league. To get him back and to have that kind of performance with 27 carries, 170 yards, and a touchdown, Wyoming fan has to be ecstatic about that. Was it good to see him run the ball like that?
Oh yeah, and it was funny after the game. He's like, "Man, I was really rusty. This team will take a 170-yard rusty Harrison Whaley any day of the week." And you think back to Mountain West Media Days in Vegas, and we're talking to this kid. He's up like 22 pounds of muscle, looks the part. He's really good. He was only 124 yards shy of 3,000 for his career. Of course, he transferred before last year from Northern Illinois to Wyoming. We were talking in Vegas at Media Days about, could this be the Harrison Whaley Ashton Genty show this year? I mean, that's how much belief there is in number 4. And and talking to coaches and talking to players, man, he made a hell of a difference on Saturday. When he's on the field, it not only is he dynamic, man, it like Ashton Genty, it messes with the defense and then really dictates what the defense is going to throw at you. So, he's another guy that people have worried is going to leave. He's going to play in these last 4 games, maintain his redshirt status, and he's fully planning on coming back to Laramie next year. Has mentioned it publicly many times. He is just, I honestly, fellas, I think we got, New Mexico's been this way too. You guys have had so many great running backs over the years, and I feel like Wyoming's the same way. And we got kind of spoiled around here thinking, all right, Harrison's hurt, but there's guys waiting in the wings, and you can throw any dude back there, and he's going to rush for 1,000 yards. While that has been true in the past, that kid is dynamic as hell, and there aren't many Harrison Whaleys on this planet. So he made a huge, huge difference for this offense.
I mean, I have to ask about. I'm excited. I'm glad he's back. That's good for Wyoming and good for the conference, especially if he says he's going to come back. I was unaware of that because I knew he was a senior. The Jay Sovell and Craig Bowl, and you kind of already touched on it last year, and you didn't think you'd be sitting here at 2-7. But how? I mean, at what point did you realize, like, man, this season's kind of going a little bit south? And did you see? How could you have seen Wyoming kind of riding the ship and at least trying to win out, and maybe, go 4-8, 5-7?
Yeah. You were definitely concerned after that first game at Arizona State. It was a 48-7 game, and it's a game where, I have no problem telling you, I went into that thinking, hey, Arizona State struggles. They struggle early in the year. They weren't good last year. This is a game Wyoming could and maybe should win. Obviously not having John Michael Gillenborg, who's one of the best players in this program, along with Harrison Whaley, it was going to be an uphill battle, but Evan Sabota threw a pick 6 on his first attempt of the game, and it was literally all downhill from there. They did nothing, literally next to nothing right that night. And, you thought, okay, maybe this is just a one-off here. Idaho's coming to town next week, an FCS school, a nice FCS school, but an FCS school. When Wyoming lost that one, and couldn't get anything going offensively that day, that's when the alarm bells really started to ring. And, I think too, guys, Evan Sabota got a start last year in Austin, Texas, against the number 3 team in the country in front of 110,000 people in Austin. And he played well. He played really well. He managed that game well. He did throw a late pick 6, but other than that, man, he was pretty on. And I think he got a lot of the fans got really excited about what he could bring. He also helped lead the Cowboys on a game-winning drive in the Arizona Bowl. And, and then also Andrew Peasley, last year's quarterback, he leaves some parting words, saying, hey, I've been around 2 quarterbacks in my career that remind me of Evan, and that's Josh Allen, and that's Jordan Love at Utah State. Those are pretty big words and compliments there. So we knew, and not to put this all on Evan, because, man, there's been a lot of injuries and a lot of inconsistencies. And, but, how the saying goes, man, the quarterbacks get the praise and the quarterbacks also get the most guff, and that comes with the position. And the Cowboys just weren't good enough at that position, and a lot of young faces at wide receiver, a lot of injuries, starting a new left tackle who got hurt in that first game against Arizona State, brought in another guy at left tackle who had never played. So it's just, like I said, man, it's been Murphy's Law to the T. You're also dealing with a new offensive coordinator and a new scheme. Craig Bowl was run it, run it, run it. This guy, Jay Johnson, came from Michigan State. He's spreading it out. So that's different. That's different athletes. That's different schemes. And then you got Aaron Bull, Craig's son, who's in his first year as a defensive coordinator, and of course Jay Savell, who's a first-time head coach at any level. And I know nobody wants to hear excuses, and a lot of Wyoming fans would think every word I just told you is just a big fat excuse. But hey, it's reality. It's reality, man.
I have to ask you, because I've been all over every time I say this, I say I've been all over the country, then I name a place I haven't been. But I've always wanted to go to Laramie, Laradice. And if you're a South Park guy, when you told me you were from Cheyenne, I immediately went to my South Park fandom and went Cheyenne Mountain. That's a joke out of context, and I'm incredibly sorry. But I mean, we've had Urlacher here, and basketball is king. But I'm just curious, with somebody fresh, and I'm a Joshy guy. What's the Josh Allen love for up in Wyoming and Laradice?
Well, I tell you what, fellas, I'm from Wyoming, born and raised. I grew up loving this program. I'm a Wyoming fan to the fullest until I took this job. And now it's, of course, I want the Cowboys to win and be successful because I'm from here and it's our NFL team. But speaking of NFL teams, the Denver Broncos are the NFL team in the state of Wyoming. Cheyenne's only 100 miles up the road from Denver. The Broncos had a chance to draft Josh Allen in that 2018 draft, and they passed on him, and the Bills took him. Now, the Bills have kind of taken over as the number one team here. I know some Broncos fans still are clinging on to that, and I'm one of them, man. When the Broncos beat the Packers in the Super Bowl in 1998, aside from my daughter being born, that was the greatest moment of my life. But now it comes down to watching a Broncos or a Bills game. It's kind of a no-brainer, and it's the Bills, and it's watching Josh, and he's been so unbelievable for this program in this state. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about Wyoming guys is it's only 550,000 people, the least populated state in the country, and all we have is the Wyoming Cowboys, and everybody in this square cares about the Cowboys, and it's a big deal. It's small but mighty and all that good stuff. I mean, you guys have New Mexico State. We don't have anybody. And so everybody in the state, whether it's large or small, cares about the Wyoming Cowboys. So it's a big deal, man. And you follow Josh Allen and you follow Logan Wilson. And right now the Cowboys have, 8, 9, 10 guys in the NFL, and you follow those guys forever. That's the kind of loyalty that you get in return when you're loyal to Wyoming.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, Cody, it's crazy when you mention that about Denver passing on Josh Allen. How many years? I don't even know. Is Bo Nix the guy for Denver? They hope so. But they went through Teddy Bridgewater's, Brock Osweiler's.
Stop.
Yeah, well, just
You're killing me.
No, it's crazy because, it's not easy to find that quarterback, right? Detroit went through a lot before they found Jared Goff. Washington looks like they found their guy with Jaden Daniels. But it's not easy. It really isn't. And Denver has to be, again, most of the guys that were making those decisions aren't there with the Broncos anymore. And they even brought in Russell Wilson. I mean, right? They paid him extraordinary amount of money, which they're still paying half of that.
You're killing me.
Yeah, no, these are just things.
He's a Cowboy fan. Don't worry about it.
How bad do you think I'm hurting, man? I'm a Dallas fan. I'm and I've been a fan like you of you mentioned Wyoming. I've been a fan of the Dallas Cowboys since 1970, of the New Mexico Lobos since 1970. So I'm as diehard as you, man. Diehard. So, some momentum with Saturday's win. Big win for Wyoming. They've got Colorado State, Boise State, and then Washington left on the schedule. And those are tough teams coming up. What do you think we're going to expect to see on the remainder of the schedule for Wyoming?
Yeah, Colorado State, obviously after this bye week, Colorado State is, that's always the dangling carrot, right? I mean, you only have 2 wins, and this team has proven they're not mailing it in, and nobody's going to mail it in that game. The hate is real. That school's only 65 miles south of Laramie, and they've met. This will be the 116th meeting between those two, and it's electric, to say the least. So you wish more was on the line with that one, but the Cowboys would love nothing more than to go into Fort Collins and ruin CSU's perfect Mountain West record and hope to knock them out of any chance of being in the Mountain West championship game. So there's some dangling carrots left. And then you got Ashton Genty and Boise State coming into town. And, Boise State was Craig Bull's kryptonite over 10 years. He beat them one time, and the time they did it was in 2016 when Josh Allen and the Cowboys hosted the Mountain West title game. So, nobody's going to give the Cowboys a chance in that game. Nobody's going to give them a chance at Washington State. But you just hope that I think there's still some real belief in this defense. I'm sure most people think, hey, man, that was definitely a one-off. This team does not give up 400 yards rushing. It just doesn't happen. And credit to Devin Dampier and Eli Sanders. Those guys are really, really dynamic and, kind of getting off script here a little bit. But I was shocked to not see more fans in the stands, I guess, at University Stadium, because watching New Mexico this year has been fun. Even from an outsider, I watched the Lobos and thoroughly impressed with Devin Dampier in that offense for sure. So, anyway, it's a big stretch here. Obviously, there's no bowl game in the future, but like I said earlier, guys, there's a lot of youngsters, especially on that offensive side of the ball, that barring transfers and all that good stuff, they're all going to be back. And I think right now Wyoming fans are super eager to see if what we saw on offense in Albuquerque is going to happen again in Fort Collins, because if it does, you really like their chances. Especially they've struggled against rushing quarterbacks this year, as you saw with Dampier. Fowler Nicolosi at CSU is not that kind of guy, so you really, really like the odds when they're not messing with a quarterback that looks like Devin Dampier.
I'm going off script. I don't know, what was I at 1998, 11, 12. I can still see, I'm anti-gunslinger. I can still see 4th and 6 and John Mobley batting that ball down. And I'm not a Broncos fan, but that's up there for me in my I guess sports moments, NFL moments, and then obviously the helicopter.
Yep.
Appreciate all the Wyoming football talk. Again, we're joined by Cody Tucker, founder, publisher of 7220sports.com. I almost butchered it there. Lastly, because we are college basketball starts today, what do you know about this Wyoming men's basketball team, and how much of a psycho is Sundance Wicks?
He's the best, man. He truly is. He's awesome. Native son from Gillette, just a home run hire, even before they even play a game, which they are set to play a game here in a couple hours. He's a ball of energy, man, and none of it's fake. He's that way 24/7. It's actually exhausting. These press conferences, man, got to kind of rein him in a little bit, or we'll be here all night. But wonderful human being, wonderful guy. He's so great for this program in this state, and he's really getting some excitement put back into this deal, because it's, let's face it, since they made the NCAA tournament a few years ago, it's hard times to say the least. There's been unbelievable roster turnover every single offseason, and that's what happened again. And I wish I could tell you more, fellas, but I don't have a clue what the starting five is tonight. It's all new faces. I'm still learning how to spell names. I'm still learning how to pronounce names. It's all brand spanking new. But when you talk to Sundance, he's excited about a lot of this. Right now, he's trying to find guys. He says he has an offensive lineup and a defensive lineup, and obviously, defense travels, and he wants these guys to be able to play both sides of the floor. But I tell you, one guy that stood out to me in the exhibition game was Dante Allen. He's a graduate who was former Mr. Kentucky basketball, went to Kentucky, played for John Calipari for a couple of years, ended up in the NCAA tournament, and then went on to Western Kentucky and played really well there. So he is a smooth customer. Sundance Wicks, though, says, I have a love-hate relationship with Dante Allen, because, he could be spreading the wealth and telling all these guys about all these experiences and playing in the tournament and what John Calipari's like, and Will Lutz and guys like that. And he just said he's just not a great practice player right now, and he's not kind of grabbing onto that leadership role he's hoping for. But Dante Allen's a smooth dude, and I'm really pumped to see what he looks like tonight.
Real quick comments, Cody. Sundance Wicks has to have one of the best names I've ever heard. I'm the voice at Western New Mexico. I'm their play-by-play guy in Silver City, New Mexico here. And there was a guy in the Lone Star Conference, Coach Cinco Boone. I used to love to hear that name, Cinco Boone. So the Sundance Wicks has to have one of the greatest names in college sports that I've ever heard.
I walked by him at Mountain West Conference basketball media days, talking to the Field of 68 guys, and they had asked Sundance how many cups of coffee he had, and he said 6. So that was probably the best thing I had heard the entire time there. His name is Cody Tucker. He's the founder, publisher of 7220 Sports. Oh, it looks like I lost him there. I will thank him, but appreciate Cody Tucker on joining us. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Rick Thompson and Ed, and I'm hoping Jacob Neff can join us. We'll be talking a
I'm
little
gonna have
bit
to sign
more.
off, Ryan. I'll see you at the game. I'll probably see you across. My wife and I will be up in some bench seats, but I'll see you there.
Sounds good. I'll bring on Rick Thompson, and we'll break down a little bit more of the game. But Ed, thank you, and I got to thank Cody Tucker again. Appreciate it. Quick
Yeah, he was
commercial.
great. Thanks, Ryan.
Yes, sir. Yeah, quick commercial break here, and we'll be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I know we lost Cody Tucker there at the end, but I really appreciate him. Founder, publisher, 7220 Sports. He was awesome to have, and I'm finally glad I found somebody else in Wyoming. So that really made me happy. Rick, welcome back. How you doing?
Richard.
Oh, I'm doing good, my friend. It's been a day. I'm ready to just watch some basketball here. Anticipation is kind of getting to me after we've been waiting for this one, probably since that Clemson loss, and feeling the burn of going out like that. But just looking forward to it. You know, this Nichols State team is capable of winning on the road. They were 8-9 on the road last year. Allowed opponents though to score almost 74 points a game. So hopefully the Lobos will be able to play a variety of players, you know, if they get an early lead, and hopefully once the bench comes in, you know, they don't lose that lead, so they're able to stay in the game. But for the most part, I expect the big dogs to get the majority of the minutes, with Washington, Borovichinen. Borovichinen, I'm going to learn it, along with Nelly and Amzil. And then first guys off the bench, I'm thinking Atiki and CJ Nelson. And then it's kind of a crapshoot for me, at least. I don't know. There's a lot of experts that might know who's going to come off the bench. But for me, I don't know who that third guy will be. Will it be Sacco, or will it be one of the freshmen coming off? So just looking forward to those things and seeing what kind of crowd they get there tonight with the big election tomorrow. If people are willing to go out and celebrate something together before we become the most divided place on earth tomorrow, if we can come again in unison one more time tonight, I think that would be great.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to steer away from politics, but I made the joke. I was like, hey, enjoy your last weekend. I mean, I think they're 17.5-point favorites. I think it's something that they can probably cover.
So you're telling me you're going to sprinkle Nichols State
No,
money line 1,300 plus?
Hey, no. I'll take the -110 on 17 and a half points, but I'm not going to risk 30 minus what you said, 3,900 to win 100. But I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see the new guys again tonight. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, CJ Nolan.
I
I
think it'll be interesting to see when CJ comes in the game, who goes to the bench first. And then who becomes the primary ball handler once Dent subs out. I don't know if we really know who that will be. We're expecting Nolan. Washington obviously can also handle. I think Philly B is also someone that's capable. The pressure of the last game seemed to get to him a little bit, but I think his game will translate. I think he just needs some more time on the court, which he hasn't had his first 2 seasons at Arizona as a Wildcat. So really looking forward to him. A lot of questions about him, but I think he's going to shine this year. So I think I'm most looking forward to the Philly B experience tonight.
Yeah, he's got that Euro step. They also are having a light show before the game. You have to download the Lobo Sports app. They're going to have the Mountain West Conference Trophy, which I know I'm going to get shit on for this. They're gonna. I mean, that's what it is here. They're going to display that. Again, still a team that lost by 21 points in the first round to Clemson. I could understand if it was a regional trophy, but I understand it was 10 years in the making, and geez, they acted like they won the World Cup when they won that conference tournament. But I'm 50-50 on it. Speaking of politics, I'm John Kerry on it. I'm back and forth. Go ahead, Rick.
I'm gonna have to show you the picture, but while we were out at Mountain West Media Days, I got a picture with the 2025
Yes.
trophy. So we'll see who earns that one this year. But let's give our final pick to Mario of who's gonna win the conference here,
Oh, man.
regular season.
Man, you know what? And I've given this program a lot of love. And if you've listened to this show in the past, your head's going to probably explode. I mentioned last Wednesday night. In Vegas, they are the odds-on favorite. This UNM Richard Pitino-led team to win the conference regular season. I think with that comes probably you're looking at a bid. And just to sidetrack, I know I'm getting off subject. I think if you can figure out how to split UCLA and St. John's and beat VCU, I think you are probably pretty good and you have a good Mountain West conference season, not what they did last year. You're probably looking in the tournament, especially with a 70 Ken Palm. I don't know if that matters anymore. They change it every year now. But as far as the conference goes, I think it is theirs to win. Lee Faria from Channel 4 KLB kind of changed my mind. He wasn't sure about Boise's backcourt. Well, what a lot of these other new teams have. I understand there's some new pieces with UNM, but it's a lot of the same old faces from last year, whether it be Mustafa Amzil, Donovan Dent, Nelly Jr. Joseph. You have True Washington. I think it's more of a solidified starting group than you've seen. I mean, I'm the naysayer on this show. I really think that they can do it. As Richard Pitino said,
Richard.
got to play that clip for him now too. He understands who they scheduled, and that Lobo fans shouldn't be mad. Tonight, this Friday night is UCLA. I will be there in Henderson, at least family flea bag forum. And then you get St. John's. I think VCU at home is a very winnable game. I like the schedule, and I think playing St. John's, UCLA, and VCU will really help them in the conference. Look what it did for Boise State last year. I'm not saying that's a given. I think getting tested early and often, that builds you for March, man. I like it a lot. Look at Gonzaga and Baylor tonight. They don't give a shit. They're playing each other right off the bat.
Yeah, I love it that they're finally getting some big boy schools on here, getting some exposure. Pitino said he did it for the fans and the community, thought everyone deserved, these type of opportunities. And you hit the nail on the head. The Lobos do have the most opportunities in the non-con, probably along with San Diego State, who always has a strong schedule. Boise State, on the other hand, this season has a fairly weak non-conference, so it'll be interesting to see at the end of the year, if they're on, the borderline of a at large bid along with some of these other teams, what these early games and what they really meant. I think one team we really haven't talked about a lot on this show is Nevada. I think for me, they might be my favorite after really thinking about this a couple weeks. To me, they have the deepest team, returning Nick Davidson, Trey Coleman, KJ Himes, and then the addition of shooter Xavier DeSell from Fresno State. He's a streaky, but I think he fills the void they need as a shooter. And then Kobe Sanders coming in as a 6'9" guard, I think is going to be an exciting player to watch. And we all know Coach Alford. He's a fantastic coach, and he's been there how many years? 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer. I can't remember. But usually about this time, he's getting guys to buy in, and I definitely expect them to be at the top this year and make the tournament for sure. And I really enjoyed also the interview you guys had with Nick Davidson. He seems locked in, and I think he could be an underdog for Conference Player of the Year, actually.
He was great to talk to too. I mean, he kind of had a sense of humor, which I loved, and I think he enjoyed talking to us, which sometimes you don't find, and it's like going to the dentist without Novocaine and getting your teeth pulled. San Diego State's schedule: they get Gonzaga at home on Monday night, November 18th. That's at Viejas. Then they go to Vegas for a tournament over Thanksgiving. They play Creighton, they play Oregon, and then they will get a TBA, so they'll get a third game there. They play both other San Diego schools, UC San Diego, and then San Diego. Cal Baptist, but you get the Oregon and Creighton on neutral court. I think that's pretty good. Obviously, they played up at Gonzaga last year and beat them in Spokane. Yeah, I like that. I see that, and I like that schedule. I would say that is pretty even or parallel to what UNM has done this year. I probably need to look at some of the other schedules. Obviously, Boise went to that tournament Boise went to that tournament last year at Disney World. They played at Clemson at Little John Coliseum. I think that's what it's called. I like just saying that. Let me make sure that's correct. That's going to bug me. Clemson men's basketball. I was sure right. Little John Coliseum. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this UNM schedule really helps them out. And I don't think Lobo fans should freak out if they don't win. I think they should be VCU because I think they should never lose at the pit. But I don't think they should freak out if they're, 6, 7, and 2, heading into conference play. I have to look at the number of total non-conference, but I don't think Lobo fans should freak out, especially if you play UCLA and especially if you play St. John's well. I mean, UCLA could be a toss up on a neutral court. I don't expect them to beat St. John's in the Garden. That's just my opinion, but I like the schedule, and I like San Diego State's schedule, and they probably might shock as many people. I know for those listening, probably might hate me saying that, but Rick, what do you think tonight? What happens tonight? I really like this. What I hear about this guard, Robert Brown III, the 3-point specialist, mini Southland Conference Steph Curry. Sounds like they got a nice power forward in Jamal West Jr., which when I read that, I thought it was David West, but Jamal West Jr. I love David West when he was on those Hornet teams. Well, I don't know. What do you think about tonight?
Like we mentioned earlier, I think hopefully it's just going to be more about the Lobos and not what Nicholls State does. I don't expect it to be close, but the Lobos do have a lot of new pieces to work in. The offense is going to be different this year without 2 real post players on the court at the same time because Amzil doesn't really play on the block very much. So I think they'll play more with a 4-out set. Amzil will be shooting from the corners and hopefully making it. I think the Lobos win easily and hopefully get some of these younger or newer guys in so we can kind of understand what their roles might be later in the year. But they really don't have much time to test things out because you got UCLA in 4 days. They're not a joke. They play tonight as well. I'm recording the game, so I'll take a look at that so we can be ready. But other games in the Mountain West tonight that I just wanted to mention, like you guys were talking, Wyoming is playing. I don't know what the school is, Concord, St. Paul. Colorado State is playing North Dakota. Air Force is playing North Alabama. Down here south of me in San Jose State is playing Western Illinois. Nevada is playing Sam Houston, and UNLV is playing Alabama State. So one of our favorite guys was the San Jose State guard Josh Udeze, who transferred over from Utah State. And I don't know if you saw the other night, Ryan, he had like 25 points and led the way scoring. So I'm expecting him to have a really nice season there as their leader alongside Will McClendon.
Oh, I was all about those guys. I thought they were great to talk to. Concordia University is in Irvine, California. I just had to look that up because it said Concordia St. Paul, which I thought, oh,
I wanted to mention, you guys were talking about Sundance Wicks, and we didn't get to interview him, and I didn't get to talk with him at all, but I just saw him kind of wandering around behind us there, and he ran into one of the Gonzaga players that I guess he knew. And it was just like the biggest embrace. They hugged each other as if they were family members. It was just really cool to see, you know, and you see the relationships that these coaches build with kids. And, you know, this guy has been all over the place and recruited all kinds of different players. And here he ends up back at where he wants to be. So really a cool story for Sundance, and looking forward to what he can build there as well.
No, I am too. I wish we could have talked to him because I think it was he was probably on a lot of people's radar for what he did at Green Bay last year. I think they won the regular season horizon. I could be wrong, but they were one of the better teams. I don't know, and just the energy that he brings. It was a lot of I don't know. He just seemed to be more of a spectacle there than anything. I don't know. I'm very intrigued by Wyoming this year. I'm excited to kind of watch them. You know, obviously I want to see them play somebody, not tonight. They should win tonight. But I don't know. That's, you always think when you hear that, like, these coaches are full of shit, and it seems like maybe, you know, there's some reality to it. And I always joked around about when I got to know Ramon Martinez, I was like, nah, man, he was the real deal. He studied hard. He went to class. He did, you know, he was the real deal, and he's a great guy. Like, not everybody's, I think there's this perception, and maybe that's in my own mind, that, you know, they're all frauds and full of crap, but and that's not the case all the time. I mean, you have to work hard. But I don't know. I'm excited. College basketball is back. I've got the Field of 68 tournament on that they're doing at in South Dakota at the Pentagon there, which I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Pentagon. I'm looking forward to Baylor and Gonzaga. Obviously, I'm going to Vegas and New York. You know, New York and New Jersey are at least Central New Jersey is my own stomping ground. I worked in New York for a little bit. So I'm excited for that St. John's game, and I'm excited for UCLA. As much as I love college football, and I'm glad college basketball is back. It definitely, it just doesn't fill the void when football is over. I care every Saturday. And I wish Jacob Neff would have been able to join us, because on Thursday, during January and February, man, we lock in on those smaller conferences like Big Sky, West Coast Conference. Hell, we were watching Quinnipiac every game last year because they were so exciting to watch in the MEAC. They were good. Yeah, I know, we're crazy. But I don't know. I'm excited. That's all I've got to say. And I think we'll do a show tomorrow night to recap. Rick, I want to thank you for all the notes. I appreciate it. It helped me with my article for our website. It helped me for here. Eric just texted me. He's in the pit, and he is walking, and that's really loud. I'm going to mute it. He is walking down the pit ramp right now. So there you go. There you go. Here, I'm at the pit. Do you want me to log down? Yeah. There he is walking down the pit. I'm getting ready to leave here shortly. By the way, the game is on the Lobo Radio, the Lobo Radio Network. I cannot talk on this show, dude. Lobo Radio Network. It is on the Mountain West Network. So if you're looking to watch it, it's on that. Tip is at 7. There is Eric walking down. I am shocked he beat me there. Wonder if there's anybody that we know. But that is pretty cool that he's walking down. And
where is Snake is the question. Is he there?
Well, you know, I was thinking about it earlier. I was taking a lot of selfies with him last year. And before the who was it? It was UC Santa Barbara. I was like early there because we had done a show pregame, and he walked in and the whole like bottom bowl started to reek of weed. And I gave him a big hug, and it was some skunky weed, some skunky shit. So I hope he's amped and ready to go.
I'm sure he will be, man. He's been waiting months for this to be back where he belongs in his home, the depths of the pit, slithering around, scaring the living hell out of people. So.
Going up to small children and scaring them. There's also Baby Snake. I'm sure he's had Insane Clown Posse on all day. I hope he's had Insane Clown Posse on all day.
Tell Eric to just block Donnie.
Oh, there's Donovan Dent shooting. Yeah, just block him and get us kicked out of the pit. That'd be great. By the way, Snake, it's all love. You know we love you. Our friend says he's on the Mount Rushmore of New Mexico with Al Hurricane Jr., Brian Urlacher.
Johnny Tapia.
Oh, Johnny. No, yeah, I think he replaced Brian Urlacher. It's Al Hurricane, Johnny Tapia, Holly Holm, and Snake. So there you go. I mean, we can ask that question down the road. Rick, any final thoughts like the Jerry Springer show?
No, just looking for the Donovan Dent experience last year when House and Mash were out. He really exploded near 20 points a game in those games. So going to be interesting to see how he really takes off this year, what his shot looks like, and how he uses these new weapons around him. So looking forward to seeing one of the best players, not only in the conference, but in the country here.
Yes, sir. Rick, I always appreciate you joining me. Thank you for all the notes. You helped me with my story, even though that's something I should be doing on my own.
Check out Pit Press website. 2 articles out this week. Ryan and Eric are churning them out. So there's going to be more coming. It's good stuff. Usually has some video links and our own thoughts in there.
You know, usually I really wanted to write football, and I just didn't have it in me Saturday night. And given this is what I pursued and what I wanted to do. Appreciate our sponsors, Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, Affordable Solar, heating and plumbing and air conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. Leave that up a little bit there. Thanks, Eric. I didn't do that. I'm sorry. Hold on. We'll leave that on there for a little bit as they shoot around. Yeah, Rick, appreciate you joining us. And he and I will log off. I'll leave that screen on there for a little bit. Peace. We'll talk to you later.